Alright then, so now I want to complete projects by clicking this tick over here. And this is going to be a bit more complex than just deleting projects. So let me first of all get all the data back and save that so we can start afresh. And you see this thing right here, this is the property we want to toggle. So when I click on this tick over here, I want to change it to true if it's false. If it's true and I click on the tick, I want to change that property back to false. So it toggles it from true to false and vice versa. So how are we going to do this? Well, first of all, we need to go to single project and attach a click event to the done icon. That's the tick. So let's do that. At click is equal to a method, and I'm going to call this toggle complete. So toggle complete like so. And we need to make that method down here below delete project, toggle complete like so. Alright then, so inside here, again, we need to make a fetch request, and it's going to go to the same endpoint, because when we make a request to edit or update the data, it's / the resource name, which we have here, and then / the project ID or resource ID that we want to update. So I'm going to pass in this.uri here, the same endpoint, and this time we're making a patch request. Now, a patch request is when we want to update a certain part of an item. So we don't want to replace the whole item, we just want to update one property. So we make a patch request to do that. So we say the method right here is going to be patch. Okay, so we also now need to add other properties into this object right here, because we need to send updated data with this request. So we need to basically, when we make a patch request, send an object which represents the updates. So we'd send an object with this property and then the updated value. So let me demonstrate this. First, I'm going to move this to the next line like this, so it looks a little easier on the eye. And after method, I'm going to first of all do a headers property. And right here, I'm going to use an object and then say the content type is application / JSON. So this is the headers of the request, and we're just basically saying we're sending some data with this request, and it's going to be of type JSON. That's what this says right here. So we need that. And then after that, we also want to send the data, and that goes in the body property. So here it needs to be JSON data that we send. So we say JSON.stringify, and then we pass in an object here. And what this method does is it stringifies the object and turns it into a JSON string. And that's how we send JSON back and forth between a server and client. So I'm going to pass in an object right here. And this object is going to have a complete property. And I'm going to set that equal to the reverse of whatever the current value is for that project. So I can say this.project.complete, and that will get me the current value of complete on this project that we already have. Now I want to reverse it, so all I need to do is place the exclamation mark in front of it. And now if the project is currently completed and it's true, then the new value will be false. And if it's currently false, the new value will be true. So this is how we make a patch request. We send an object with only the updated properties. We don't need to send all the other properties in because we're not doing anything to those. We just send in an object of the things we want to update. And then we stringify that using JSON.stringify to make it into a JSON string, because that's just a JavaScript object as it is. And we can't send JavaScript objects between the client and the server. It has to be a JSON string, the transfer of data. So that's all there is to it. That's the fetch request to go out and make that patch to the data. Now then, I'm going to save this and I'm going to try it. So if we come over here and refresh to get all the data back, I'm going to click, let me just see this. If I go to the data, I'm going to make them both false to begin with, so we know they're both not completed. So now if we come over here and try this, I'm going to click this one over here. And if we take a look, we can see that now this is true. And the same goes for this. If we click this one, now this is true. But if we try to click them again, watch this. If I click this, then it's still true. Now, why is that? Well, again, it's because the data is updated now, but the local data hasn't been updated. So according to this, it's still not completed. And when we click on it, it's still reversing that and then saving it as true again. So again, we need to make sure that our local data is in sync with our db.json data. So we're going to do the same thing as we did over here for the delete, where we emitted a custom event. We're going to do the same thing down here. So let me attach a then block to this, which fires a callback function. And inside this callback function, we want to emit a custom event. So this dot $emit, and then we'll give this event a name of complete. And then we also need to pass the ID of the project that we're completing so that we can then in the home component update that in here. So let's do that. So it's this.project.id. Okay, so we're emitting that custom event now. Now I also want to attach a catch block to this as well, catch the error, and then we'll just log it to the console like so. Okay. So then now we need to listen for this event, this complete event, inside the home component. So let me go up to the top and I'm going to say at, and then it's called complete. And I'm going to call this function handle complete like so. Now down here we need to make this method, so handle complete, and again we automatically take in the ID as a parameter. Alright, so in here again we need to try and update this data. Now this time we don't want to filter, we don't want to take anything out of the data. All we want to do is update the complete property of one of the objects. So we need to be able to find a certain object inside this array, and to do that we'll be using the find method, which is an array method. Now again, if you don't understand the find method, I've got a whole video explaining it in the last chapter of this course, so go there if you need more information. But let us carry on. I'm just going to call it P, this local project that we're going to try and find, and I'm going to set that equal to this.projects and then use the find method on that. Now this fires a callback function for each of the items inside the project, and if we return true then it gets us that project, and that's what we store in here, and if we return false it just goes to the next one. So for each callback function we pass in the project that we're currently iterating, so it goes through the first project, then the second, then the third, etc., and each time we get access to it, much like the filter method. So inside here we want to return project.id is equal to the ID. So this is going to either be true or false. It will be true if the ID matches the project ID, so the current iteration. So if we return true on that, we return that project to P, and now we're storing it inside here. And all we need to do is update a property on that. So let's do that. I'm going to say down here P and then access the complete property, which every project has, and I'm going to set that equal to reverse of whatever it currently is. So exclamation P dot complete. So now what we're doing is we are updating the external data, and then when we've done that, we emit a custom function to update the local data right here as well, and hopefully now it will be kept in sync. So that means that when we click it twice, it will go to true first of all, then back to false. So let me refresh and let's see what it currently is. So currently it's true for both. If we click on this, then it's going to go to false, and the same for the other one. And if we click on these again, it should go back to true, fingers crossed. Yes, it does, it works. Awesome. So now it just toggles those properties. Now there's one more thing I want to do, and that is to style the completed projects slightly differently. So ideally, each completed project should have a left border that is green and not this pinky red. So let us go back into the single project, and we're going to output a conditional class right here on this project. So remember, to do that we can bind to the class attribute, and it doesn't matter that we already have a class, we're just applying additional classes here. And when we do conditional classes or dynamic classes, this is going to be an object where each key is the class we want to apply to it, and if the value is true it gets that class, if it's false then it doesn't get that class. So I'm going to apply a class of complete to this if the complete property is true. So all we need to do is say, okay, evaluate the project that we have. And remember, we can use that in the template because it's a prop. and then look at the complete value on that project. So if this is true, then it gets this complete class. If it's false, then it won't. So now we can style this project differently if it also has the complete class. So let's come down here to the styles, and I'm just going to paste this in. So the class of project, which also has a class of complete, we update the border left to be this color, which is green, instead of the default, which is this reddy color. So now if we save that, you can see that they're both green, and that means they're both complete. But if we click on one of these and it goes back to red, that means it's not complete. And the same for this. And if we click it again, it's completed, etc. So that's pretty nice. It would be nice if we could do something similar for this tick. And to do that, we're going to have to apply a class to that icon that is unique. So it's this one right here, and we'll give it a class of tick. And all I want to do is give this the same color as this border down here if the project is complete. So I could say project.complete, and then I want the tick class, and I want to give this a specific color, which is going to be this right here. So I can say color is that hex code. All right, so now if the project is complete, we take the tick icon and we give it this color. So let's try that, and we can see that now it's complete. And if we click it, this goes back to normal and this goes back to red. So that is pretty nice. So next up, I'm going to show you how to add new projects.